ever stop to think about how massive companies make those huge, high-stakes decisions? It's not just a coin toss or guesswork, right? There's this powerful, kind of hidden science that helps managers cut through all the noise and make the best possible choice. And that's exactly what we're diving into today: quantitative techniques.
So, here's what we've got on tap. First, we're going to tackle the big problem, the dilemma every manager runs into. Then, we'll open up the toolkit of solutions. We'll even see them in action, figure out when to use them, and, this is super important, we'll talk about when they just don't work.
I mean, think about it. Every single day, leaders are staring down this dizzying number of choices. Whether it's allocating budgets or launching a new product, the pressure to make the right call is just immense. And get this, you almost never have all the information you want.
So yeah, that kind of begs the big question, doesn't it? With all these moving parts and things you just can't possibly know, how on earth do you make the perfect choice?
Well, here's the secret. You can't. The goal isn't perfection. That's a fool's errand. The real goal is to have a better process, a more logical way to get to a smarter decision. And that is exactly what these techniques are all about.
Okay, so how do we get smarter? Well, we open up this thing called a quantitative toolkit. It's all part of a field called operations research. Just think of it like a toolbox, but instead of hammers and wrenches, it's packed with mathematical and statistical models for making those tough calls. Let's pull out a few of the big ones.
First up, the big one, linear programming. This is a real cornerstone. So imagine you're trying to make as much profit as possible, but you've got limits, right? Your factory can only produce so much, you've only got so many raw materials. What linear programming does is find the absolute best, most optimal solution that fits inside all those constraints. It's pretty amazing.
All right, next up, we've got allocation models. Think about trying to manage a huge project. You've got a tight budget, a small team, you know the drill. These models are all about taking what you have, money, people, machines, whatever, and figuring out the absolute best way to assign them to get the job done right. Now, this next one is cool because you see it in action all the time. Waiting line models. You might also hear it called queuing theory. It's literally the science of waiting in line. It helps businesses figure out, say, the perfect number of cashiers to have open at the grocery store. You know, enough to keep the line moving and customers happy, but not so many that people are just standing around with nothing to do. It's all about finding that sweet spot.
And believe me, this toolkit goes deep. You've got replacement models that tell you the exact moment it's cheaper to buy a new machine instead of fixing the old one again. You got competitive strategies, which is basically using game theory to guess what your competitor is going to do next. And then there are these incredible network models, things like PERT and CPM, that are crucial for planning massive projects. We're talking building a skyscraper level of complex. And that's just scratching the surface.
All right, so that's the theory. Kind of abstract, right? But let's bring it back to the real world. How do these models actually get put to work to solve real problems that businesses face every single day?
This table just lays it out so clearly. You've got a distribution headache, wondering how to ship your products for the lowest cost? Bam, linear programming. Trying to figure out the best mix of products to make? You guessed it, linear programming again. From staffing and finance to, get this, even a farmer deciding what to plant for the best profit, there's a model for just about everything. Okay, but here's a really important catch. A model is only as good as the information you feed it. And you have to understand that not all decisions happen in the same kind of environment. Really, there are 3 distinct worlds a decision can live in. So on one end of the spectrum, you've got certainty. This is where you know exactly what's going to happen. Let's be real, that's pretty rare. A step up from that is risk. Here you don't know the outcome for sure, but you can guess the odds. Like, there's a 70% chance this works. But where the real action is, where most of the tough calls are made, is in uncertainty. The future is just a big question mark. It's a black box. You might not even know all your options, much less the risks involved.
So how do you even begin to operate in a world of uncertainty? Well, that's where modern techniques come in. Managers will do a deep dive with risk analysis to really get a handle on what they're facing. They'll use things like decision trees to literally draw a map of every possible choice and where it could lead. And they even use something called preference theory, which helps them factor in their own gut feeling about how much risk they're willing to take.
Now, with all this powerful stuff, it's really tempting to think of these models as some kind of magic bullet that solves everything. But that would be a huge mistake. If we're going to use them right, we have to be totally honest about what they can't do.
And here's the bottom line. These models live and breed numbers. They have no idea what team morale is like or what your company culture is. They don't do feelings. Plus, they can be super expensive to get up and running. A lot of the time, they're a simplified version of real life, and you're going to get pushback from people who trust their gut. But the biggest thing to remember is that a model is only a tool. If an experienced person doesn't interpret the results correctly, it's not just useless, it can be downright dangerous.
This quote just hits the nail on the head. Models are only idealized representation of reality and not be regarded as absolute. A model is like a map, but a map is not the actual place, right? It's there to help you, to guide your judgment, not to replace it.
So, that leaves us with one last big question to chew on. If managers have this incredible scientific toolkit at their fingertips, but at the end of the day, they still have to lean on their own experience, their own intuition, what is great management? Is it an art or is it a science? You know, maybe the smartest decision of all is realizing that it's got to be both.